So Jack Sawyer and Ohio State's 28-14 win over Texas in the Cotton Bowl to get to the national championship game. He only had 3 tackles and 1 sack and a pass breakup, but the sack was a strip sack that he then scooped up and went 83 yards through the heart of Texas to score a touchdown that made it a 2-point game and essentially closed off the game. Oh, yeah, in the game before this, he was batting down passes against Dylan Gabriel and sacking Dylan Gabriel. Oh, wait, the game before that, he had 2 sacks against Nico Iamaleava. Oh, wait, the game before that, I know they lost to Michigan, but he had a pick that gave Ohio State the ball to potentially win that game, and he was also the guy who snatched the flag away. He's been doing a lot of stuff for the last 45 days. He's been pretty busy. I'm Steven, that's Stefan, and that's Andrew. So, Stefan, here's my question to you. If you could describe Jack Sawyer in one word and what he has meant to the Ohio State football team, what would it be?
Everything. That's kind of a cop-out. It's funny you say that. Something I posted after that play happened is it's really hard to find the words to describe how big that play was, everything that play meant. That's not to even mention the fact that he was roommates with Quinn Ewers, the guy who he took the ball from. Like that's like a subplot to all this of how big that play was. He's been everything for this team in the sense of being a leader off the field. JT was asked about it in the locker room post game about Jack's leadership, and he was basically just like, yeah, he's a captain for a reason. Like, we listened when he talks. That guy's voice is critical in that room. He is, Steven, you've said this a lot, he is kind of the face of the Ryan Day era, right? Like, he was the first guy to commit to Ryan Day. He was 16 years old. He stuck it out, through the highs and the lows. And in his career, in terms of team success, there have been a lot of lows, right? The losses to Michigan are always going to stand out. But on the field and off the field, he has kind of been one of those guys that's keeping this team together right now. This team had every reason to just fall apart after Michigan. With everything that was being said, it was clear that they heard a lot of what was being said. Everything was there for this team to just fall apart, and they didn't. And I think Jack is a big reason they're still together. Another thing, Ryan Day always talks about the biggest games, your best players got to show up. He talks specifically about Jack and JT. Hey, remember back in like September when we were having a conversation of how those two guys weren't playing as well as they should, which we were right at the time, but they figured it out, and they're playing their best in the best games. But the reason that conversation came up when we were talking to Ryan Day going into the Oregon game was because they weren't playing at that level. And the question was basically, hey, how important is it to get those two guys going against a team like this? And Ryan Day said your best players have to show up in these top 5, top 10 games, whatever it is. They are doing that right now, Jack and JT, but Jack specifically is making the biggest plays in the biggest moments because he is one of the best players on this team and maybe the best player on this defense right now, the way that he's playing. He is doing everything you need a senior captain to do.
JT had a sack and a half in the first half, so it was almost like JT took care of Quinn in the first half. Yeah. Jack took care of him in the second half. Andrew, what's your word?
Heroic. Or hero, if you want to use just a way to describe him as a person, or heroic as to what he did, whatever you want to use there. There should have been a moment for him against Michigan about 6 weeks ago, and it was taken away. I'm sorry, it was taken away because the offense wasn't good enough, because they scored 10 points somehow against a team that was not very good this year. We talked about Michigan enough. Jack Sawyer has routinely showed up when this team has needed a hero to make a play. There are a lot of subplots to that drive. The Texas drive that I'm talking about, the play where they get beat on the wheel route, or I think it was Davison Igbinosun who makes a tackle or is there to push the running back out of bounds, or Lathan Ransom who, on God knows why Sark called that toss play that lost him 7 yards. Lathan Ransom makes a great play there. But you need a player to do that, because while we're talking about this, Ohio State wasn't really running the ball super effectively. Texas had 2 timeouts. They had the 2-minute timeout. That game is not over if it's just a sack or if Jack Sawyer falls on the ball. He scoops up the ball and runs it for a touchdown, and he was there when the team needed a hero. He was Superman. When the alarm bells are ringing and the townspeople are screaming and the townspeople are crying and nobody knows what to do, Superman showed up. And he revealed the S on his chest tonight. I know the Cotton Bowl logo was ripping off his chest and the 33 was on his chest, but he had an S under his jersey tonight because Jack Sawyer is the reason why this team is going to a national championship. And it's not just because he made a sack. Jack Sawyer was the first player to commit to Ryan Day. Jack Sawyer on the field, Jack Sawyer off the field, Jack Sawyer to these players, Jack Sawyer to the community, has been the hero that Ohio State has needed. And if Ohio State does win the national championship, which they're 10-point favorites at this point to do so, Jack Sawyer is going to be a player that people look at and say, wow, when you talk Buckeye legends, Buckeye heroes, Eddie George, Ezekiel Elliott, all of these players, I don't want to say Archie Griffin, but like, we're getting to a level where he is making plays, where he is putting himself in that conversation. He is getting himself to a level where when the lights are the brightest, Jack Sawyer balls out. He had 3 sacks at this game last year, and nobody cared because it wasn't a playoff game. But guess what? When he needed his team that was not really playing that well, he showed up. He shows up when it counts. He shows up when his team needs it. That's heroic. That's Varsity Blues. It's the Varsity Blues quote, let's be heroes for 48 minutes. Jack Sawyer was a hero tonight.
I was talking to his dad after the game, and we were talking about how his touchdown, scoop and score, they were saying it was the longest touchdown in Cotton Bowl history. He also owns the record for the most sacks in a game in the Cotton Bowl last year. You know, back when the defense was holding the offense, back when that was happening. I think he's going to end up being in the Cotton Bowl Hall of Fame one day.
Yeah.
That's insane, right? I'm going to go there.
Maybe, yeah.
If they win a national championship, I'm going to go there, and I'm going to say that Jack Sawyer is one of the 8 most important Buckeyes in school history. And I'm going to tell you why on this video, and I'm going to also explain it even more in depth on Buckeye Talk, so go listen to that wherever you find podcasts. You both have mentioned it. He was the first player to commit to Ryan Day's Ohio State. Urban Meyer offered him, and he committed to Ryan Day like maybe 40 days in to the tenure. I'm so serious. It was on Super Bowl Sunday. I'm so serious. It was ridiculous. Like, he wasn't even supposed to do it. His dad told him not to do it, and he did it anyway. So he starts this thing. He sparks one of the highest rated classes Ohio State's ever had in 2021. He's the kid who opened up his home when the world was shut down because of COVID. And none of these kids who are seniors now had a normal recruiting process. And he opened up his house so they could all come to Columbus their senior year just so they could see the city they're about to live in. He did that. That's the guy who got everybody on the phone when everyone was thinking about going to the NFL, and the only 2 that left were Marvin. That's because he's a top 5 pick, and Michael Hall, because he had a family thing that he had to be loyal to that. He had to go take care of his family. Everybody else came back because of that guy. That's the guy who was fighting Michigan. That's the guy who, when Michigan was trying to plant the flag, that's the guy who on social media has the entire world laughing at him because he fought back and telling him, fight back during the game. Well, he did, as you mentioned. He had a pick in that game. He was supposed to be a legend after that game, and that moment got stolen from a kid who has probably been dreaming about that exact type of play since he was 4. He did all that, and he has been living up to the hype ever since. Yes, most of his career, him and JT Tuimoloau have been a hypothetical who have every so often shown it, but it hasn't been consistent. But I don't know what the heck has happened to Jack Sawyer, but somebody ticked him off after they lost to Michigan, and he's been taking it out on the rest of college football ever since then. So if that guy who keeps sparking everything that's happening in the Ryan Day era keeps doing what he did in a 28-14 win over Texas in the Cotton Bowl, and a 41-21 win over Oregon in the Rose Bowl, and a 42-17 win on a cold day in Columbus against Tennessee. If that guy, that kid who told me when he was 17 years old that he thought this was going to be the decade of Ohio State, and it hasn't happened. Michigan took over. But if that guy wins a national championship, he's not paying for another meal in this state ever again. He's not. So your guys' words are great. I agree with both of them. You could say important. You could say mine's legendary, because that's what legendary stuff. This is an Ohio kid, so it already means more to him. Ryan Day's
more. It just means more.
Yes, you see. Ryan Day started his program with a kid who grew up 15 minutes from here. And now that same kid might be carrying him to the national championship game. That's legendary stuff. I don't even know if I could write a better script than that. Go get the text, 614-350-3315, 2-week free trial, $3.99 after that. Give us your word on Jack Sawyer. Stefan, Andrew, Steven, we got a flight to catch because apparently we got to go to Atlanta and watch a national championship game. See you there.